God in heaven, we thank you for this special day that you have given to us. Especially for all the good men and action. We ask now that you would be with this committee as we decide the issues of our special nation. We thank you for the action and show our people. We ask now that you do especially with our military personnel shared throughout the world. That you do so throughout the country. We do especially want to see you.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Meredith Craddock.
Here.
Joe Crittenden. Bill Anglin.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Arthur Connor. John Gargan. Chuck Hoskins.
Here.
Bill Johnson.
Here.
Taylor Key.
Here.
Johnny Keener. Jackie Bob Martin.
On it.
Linda O'Leary. Navani Shophouse. David Thornton. Kara Cowan Watt. Phyllis Cherokee.
We have a quorum. Okay, the purpose of this meeting today, this special meeting, is to approve Tribal Council Compensation Committee nominees and also to discuss redistricting. And at this time, I'll open the floor for nominations for Compensation Committee. Mr. Baker.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate Bob Stock.
And Mr. Stopp is here, I believe, also, isn't he? Are there any? Second? All in favor of this nomination, to put this nomination forward, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And someone else had their hand up. Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Madam Chair, the one I'm going to nominate, resume is not here, but everybody knows him. He's a person that's served the nation for many years in different capacities and is willing to serve on the Compensation Committee, and that's John Ketcher.
Second.
John Ketcher. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor of putting this nomination forward, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Are there any other nominations? I have a nomination of Jennifer Barger Johnson. If you'll recall, she was one of the at-large candidates.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Hembry, you want to explain how your suggestion on how we vote on these people?
I would recommend that you ask for any further nominations, and seeing none, I would ask for nomination cease.
I'll move. Nominate C.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Why have we come about doing this in this form? Is this on the Constitution? What is it?
This was part of legislative act. I can't remember the exact number of it, but this is Cherokee law. As you recall, before the last election, there was an act or a bill that was sponsored by, I believe it was Ms. Whitcliffe or Ms. Shepherd, and the compensation for the elected officials was set by taking an average of the 5 civilized tribes, council members, and chiefs and deputy chiefs, and the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. That act, and that's where we set that compensation for that act. And the act further said that all future elections there will be a citizen compensation committee selected. 2 by the chiefs, carte blanche, 2 by the council, carte blanche. Those 4 will fit, and they will set those that will come up with a salary. That salary needs to, those recommendations need to be approved by the chief and the tribal council. So that's how we came about the process. It is Cherokee law.
Any other questions? All in favor of nomination ceasing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Mr. Hembry?
Madam Chairman, what I would recommend is that we all get a sheet of paper, write down the 2 people you want to be on the compensation committee, whoever those two people are, who get the most votes, will be the two members from the rule committee of group on the council, and that they commend about getting with the chief's other two. I know one is Larry Ader. I don't know who the other person is, and start getting the process going about selecting the salary. Now, this will not be a secret ballot. I want you to write each person's name down and sign your name. Doug and I will, or some other good accountant, we'll count those days, make a report back to you, read the ballot and the names, so therefore we enter into the
One sheet of paper with two names.
two names.
Ms. Cherokee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question. I am not familiar with Mr. Stahl. Is he going to be given an opportunity to speak before we vote, or?
Yes, he will be, and also Mrs. Barbara Johnson, she's available by phone. She has a court docket today, but she's available at this particular time. Mr. Baker?
Yes, and I didn't know if we were going to have nomination speeches or not, but Bob Stoff has been around the tribe since the beginning. He has worked for the tribe at the onset, and then left here and went out west, and I think everybody has his resume, but if I could be allowed to have him come to the podium and address it.
Absolutely.
Bob?
Mr. Stock? Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to the inviting me. My parents are skilled in Lewiston, George Stock, Nell in Lewiston, Mary Stock, Eric and Lewiston. That's my name and your name. Born and raised in Tahlequah. Worked under Keeler's administration. Left and went to the government for 27 years, and you have my resume. Basically, that's how we used to do it in the old times. I'm from the Wolf Clan. Great-grandfather was Clark Going Snake from the Going Snake District, and my sister is Rosie North Stock, was a school teacher. And do I speak the language? I understand it quite well. I do speak not fluently, but I can talk a few words. In the government, basically, you all think I was born and raised in the government, because some of the things I've done in my career has been dealing with individuals, physicians, nurses, and wage grade people. I've been on the negotiating team, labor relation team. There was basically unionized in some areas on everything. I was part of that. I was the chief negotiation group with the government, and had a lot of training in the Navy, the military areas, because we dealt with a lot of commissioned officers and military people. Compensations, yeah, we have dealt with that, and it's very interesting. I think everybody should be compensated what they do, and basically, I'm here. I'm retired. I retired 5 years ago from the government, and I had a splendid career in the government, and had wonderful friends in the government, and tremendous experience with some people that I've met at Ohio State University, who gave me some real good training in the health field, and it was really one of the important things I felt, and they are friends of mine today. They're physicians, nurses, and a lot of wage grade people. And basically, that's where I live here now. Anything else you need to know from me?
Anybody have any questions? Ms. Cowan?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Stock, did you work at the Cherokee Nation?
Yes, I did.
I didn't see that on your resume, so I didn't know why that would be.
Well, I didn't. Well, that was quite a few years ago, and I didn't think anyone knew Bill Keeler at that time. because when I came in here, I said, well, I did work under Bill Keeler, and they said, well, a lot of people wouldn't probably recognize his name, but I do know this is Bill Keeler's complex. And I was his assistant for many years, about 7 or 8 years. When I came to the tribe, I was 26 years old, and I stayed with him until I was about 32 or something like that, 33 years old. And Mr. Keeler and I became quite well, you would say, like a father and son to you, because he gave me the experience, not only in the Indian enterprise, but also Indian businesses. But also, he gave me a lot of experience under the Phillips Petroleum Executive area in my background to basically work with. I did not only work with the Cherokee tribe. Basically, I was the deputy chief of the Cherokee tribe. I was the 5 tribes president, the 5 tribes for several years, 2 or 3 years in a row. I was the chairman of the board of the health board for several years at the Oklahoma City area. Basically, that's where I was.
Could you give me a better understanding of some of the things that you'd like? Because obviously you're seeking the position out. What would you consider, what are some of the things you want to address in the compensation committee?
Well, I really don't know at this time. The only thing I could say is I can only give you my background of, I think I could be a help, and I think I said earlier, everyone needs to be compensated. My understanding, this is the first time in the Constitution, is that correct? That it's into the Constitution, I heard what the,
It's a legislative.
it's move on it, yes, and,
Not constitutional.
yeah, I think legislative. And so basically, I think I can give you the background that I've been exposed to help you out. I really do.
Thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, anyone else have any questions or comments? Mr. Baker?
Yeah, and when I talked to Bob about this, we had after zero discussion about how it would be done or what he thought or anything. He's a revered Cherokee citizen that was good enough for Bill Keeler. And I thought that he's well respected in the 14 counties, and I thought he would be a good asset. Frankly, I don't care if they raise the salary or the salary or take it away. But we need good people looking at it. And I would encourage you to vote for Bob.
Anything else, Mr. Baker?
Good.
Any other questions? Mr. Johnson?
I really don't have any more. I'm just going to get through with Mr. Stop. Just going to discuss the reasons John Ketchum.
Oh, okay. Any other question of Mr. Stock? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your giving up your time today. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, ma'am. John told me yesterday that he is involved with the national holiday right now, and he has some commitments today, and he couldn't be here. But of course, we all know him, we all know his service, his background, his commitment to the Cherokee tribe. He served as a council representative, he served as deputy chief. He knows the ins and outs of the job, and we discussed some things that he thinks that would be a help that he can offer the compensation committee. And anyway, I just think he's an ideal person, that he's been there and done that, be a member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Johnson in regard to Mr. Ketcher? Any further discussion? Mr. Henry?
Madam Chairman, I just want to clarify on the vote to be taken is that you can vote for 2 individuals, you can vote for 1 individual, or you can vote for none at all. If you don't wish to choose for vote for either one, just sign your name to your ballot. But every ballot must be signed. Okay?
Thank you. I brought forward Mrs. Berger Johnson. She was one of the first ones I thought about whenever this issue came forward. She is a tribal member. She'd bring a diverse background into this committee. She's a practicing or has been a practicing attorney. She's an assistant professor of legal studies at UCO. She has done considerable research in the area of legal environment of business. I think she would be a very good candidate, and she is available by phone if you all would like to ask her any questions. Anybody have any questions of Ms. Barbara Johnson? Yes.
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions. I did have a chance to visit with her by phone and discussed the committee and understood a little bit more about her background with the College of Business there, and just was very impressed with her background. And, I know that she wants to help and she wants to be part of this committee, and I'm just glad that she was willing to put her name in the hat.
She's a very busy lady. If anyone has any questions, then we will go ahead and write 1 or 2 or none, but sign the ballot, right? Then we'll hand, and then will you collect them, Todd?
Well, whenever you're done, I'll come around in about 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
Do I have everyone's ballot? Everyone's ballot.
Oh, I didn't sign it. Sorry. I don't know which one's mine. It's toward the bottom, I think. Sorry. I
Right there.
think I did this last time.
I think this is full ballot.
We got some election commissioners here.
Maybe I did sign it. Did you throw mine away, Todd?
There's one without any name.
Might be 2 of
That's
them.
me. Sorry.
I'm going to go count these real quick if you want to continue on.
Now, we'll continue on with the redistricting, if that's all right with the council here.
I'll be right back in.
We have 2 distinguished visitors here to talk about who were 2 of the framers of this new Constitution, Mr. Hanna and Mr. Keene. And they're here to talk about the intent of the framers on redistricting. And Mr. Hanna or Mr. Keene, whichever would you like to come forth? Don't fight over it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you very much for the invitation to be here. The only corrections in the introduction is that while Mr. Keene and I were honored to serve as officers of the convention, we are far from being the framers. And I see some of the framers right here in this room today that were a part of that 9-day convention in 1999 that set out the course for our current Constitution. My remarks will be very brief and is a general overview of the mechanics that took place during that period of time, which as I grow older and my memory begins to dim, I return once again to the transcripts of the Constitution that dealt specifically with Article 5 as it was reviewed in the 1976 Constitution and Article 6 as it appeared in the new Constitution. The debate that took place among the delegates is represented in these 2 volumes. It took virtually the better portion of 2 days of the convention, as I recall, Ralph, for us to move through looking at the legislative article, which is a part of the council's responsibilities in fulfilling of the new Constitution. February 27th and 28th were interesting days. As you know, we had 79 identified delegates at the Constitutional Convention. There were a number of those that were coming from beyond the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation, and a great deal of the debate that went on at the Constitution was in fact focused on equal representation. And that's terminology that obviously succeeded and survived in the language, which I'll return to. But my first point is to talk specifically about the discussion and debate of the framers. The transcripts revealed that there was a great concern about equal representation from a standpoint of not only those Cherokee citizens that are living within the historic boundaries, but those that are beyond. So the delegates in the room will remember that we in fact had several hours of debate over determining the actual number of council seats. Yeah, we actually had a nomination of almost 6 numbers at one point. It looked very much like a bingo game there for a while. But we finally hinged upon Robert's rules of order in filling a blank. And for a while there was a number of continuing with 15, there was a number of 18, and I believe the kind man from Muskogee was actually the author of the number 17. At that point it was identified, I think a general consensus was that the 15 tribal councilors representing those citizens within the historic boundaries of 14 counties, and 2 would serve at large. The language that moved not only from the Constitution draft that was offered by the Constitution Convention Commission, as well as what survived in the 99, is virtually verbatim of the 1983 amendment to the 1976 Constitution. If you look at the 76 Constitution, Article 5, Section 3 dealt specifically with the election of tribal councilors, stating that there would be 15, and they were elected at large. During the early 1980s, there was a movement throughout the Cherokee Nation that we would wish to return to district representation, and districts were contemplated very similarly in geographic boundary as those districts that had existed in the 1839 Constitution. And of course we all know historically the concept of districting dates all the way back to 1827. In our 27 Constitution there were identification of districts at that time, not so much surrounding populations but primarily concentrations of seats of government. So from that, the commissioners advanced the general thought that districts shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. That language was advanced because of the 83 Amendment in the 76 Constitution, and it survived into the 99 Constitution. The primary differences in language focus around the words district and the words seats. In the 76-83 Amendment, district shall be apportioned was the verbiage, and in 99 the word was replaced to read seats shall be apportioned, but still with the final modifier to afford reasonably equal divisions of citizenship among the district. If you look at the transcripts, there was discussion about one man, one vote, that we were looking for an equality footing, that Cherokees would be represented by their one vote, not so much that they would be actually voting for multiples of representation. Aside from the tedious process that today I think we sometimes gloss over, but the debate over establishing the number, and that of course translated into the responsibilities of at-large delegates and exactly how to define those individuals. And I think at one point, Ralph, there was even a discussion if we would declare districts outside of the historic boundaries. And we had to clarify that the Cherokee Nation is a real and historic place, that within its boundaries is definitely our responsibility, and that we should not be attempting to create jurisdictions beyond our boundaries. So at the end of the day, I have very little to bring to you as far as any new revelations that you may be looking for with the intent of the framers, aside to say that this was a very important part of the Constitutional Convention. It spanned 2 days. The delegates looked very closely at the number of individuals that would sit in our council house and from where they would come from and what they would represent. We do know that they were focused on representing citizenship in the districts. There was a long debate about voters, qualified voters. At the end of the day, and at the end of the discussion, the word citizenship was selected very specifically by the delegates because they intended, I believe, for our tribal council to represent all citizens in those equally apportioned areas, whether they be registered voters or not, or whether they be underage Cherokees or not. I believe, personally, that the framers wished to see genuine representation. It was nothing of how many voters are here, or how many are there, or how many are qualified, or how many are registered. Throughout the convention, there was a great deal of discussion about the identification of voters. But at the end of the day, with regard to Article 6, Section 3, it's talking about the representation of citizens. Ralph, those are my general remembrances, and I don't know, you might wish to contest or amplify.
Jay, first of all, I agree with everything that Hannah has said. His recollection meets with mine. I also took some time to review the transcripts. And the bottom line is this, folks, the convention was very concerned about fair representation for all citizens, but most of their time was spent trying to determine the size of the representative body and not necessarily how that representation was going to be distributed. So, and it did come up a couple of times, and as Jay pointed out, one of the major points of that was that we altered the language from the original 1987 amendment, which said 15 of these districts shall be apportioned. We altered that language, and we did so intentionally to prevent from creating a mandatory number of districts. We changed the language to say 15 of these seats, meaning councilor seats, shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. So the new Constitution, the framers did not set forth any specific number of districts, and they did that intentionally to allow this legislative body, give them the flexibility to create those districts in what they deem to be the best interest. As time changes, as population changes, sometimes districts need to change. But like Mr. Hanna said, the underlying theme was equal representation. And the other thing that brings into play is the concept of one man, one vote, or one person, one vote, which has been staunchly upheld in the federal system for many, many years. I mean, that is the constitutional standard on the federal level, one man, one vote. And so you try to adhere to that principle as closely as possible whenever you're making these decisions and you're creating this sub-political system. The problem with having 9 districts and 15 representatives is, as you all know, we have multiple districts that have more than one representative. Any one Cherokee that happens to reside in those districts gets to cast more than one vote. So, me being from Adair County, I essentially get to cast 2 votes. I essentially have 2 representatives on this council. Those Cherokees that live in districts that only have 1 representative only get to cast 1 vote. They only have 1 representative. In my view, that creates a problem with the concept of one person, one vote. And it has never been challenged in Cherokee Nation. Today, there have been some challenges regarding districting, but it's always been limited to the numbers, the apportionment numbers themselves. But to my knowledge, it has never been challenged in our courts whether or not that violates either the Cherokee Constitution or even the federal Constitution. I think if we're going to sit down and we're going to re-engineer the way we district, we need to keep these principles in mind to avoid any potential challenges in the future. So with that, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that.
Only to add a couple of elements that I'm certain that this body has taken up, but I'll give voice to them. There obviously are other provisions in the Constitution that will have an impact on quote-unquote voter population. And I bring this up only to point out that the word in Article 6, Section 3 is focused on citizenship. Obviously, the Constitution paves a way for at-large citizens, people such as myself. I live in Norman, Oklahoma, and I will have a choice under the new Constitution coming soon, where I'll have to decide if I will retain my ancestral representation in what is now Adair County, or if I will take up an at-large seat. The convention spent a great deal of time attempting to build an ability of equality in the decision-making of our citizens, so that there would not be a populace of voters that would have the ability to more or less switch around from a identified district to another district. So, and I know a great deal has been looked at with regard to demographics of the entirety of the 14 counties. Be mindful that those demographics will obviously shift if you were in fact looking at them based on registered voters, because at some point there will be a number of individuals that may in fact decide to take their registered votership outside of the historic boundaries. I bring that up only because I know that certain individuals outside of these chambers will want to focus on that. I say that to say this: refocus on what the actual wording is, and it is citizenship. So once again, no reference to voters in these articles. It's reference to citizenship, and I believe that those are the equal apportionment logic base that you will need to embrace. Effectively, whether you create one district and apportion yourselves equally among sub-districts in that unit, or I guess in a perfect world, if you had 15 districts where one counselor would serve and represent those citizens in each of those 15 districts. That has been left, and properly so, in a Constitution, has been left to the legislative body to determine. As I've always said, constitutional framers, although there are those that would criticize there's way too much legislation in here, effectively their job is to tell you to go to Chewy. The trick is that you have to decide how you're going to get to Chewy. So the framers of the Constitution have instructed you where to go. How you elect to get there, either horseback or in the fastest automobile that you can procure, will be the deliberations of this body.
Ms. Calm-Watts, and Mr. Baker, and Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, this is what I heard you say, so I'd like to know if I've not heard you correctly. So, between the discussion or dialogue, the intent behind the Constitution and the actual wording, I heard that we have to redistrict by seats, that there should be one person and one representative, might also be referred to as one man, one vote, that citizenship, Cherokee citizenship, the blue card, is the population, that population is the basis for any apportionment or reapportionment. There is no mandatory number of districts, but at the same time, immediately following, I heard that there should be a reasonable apportionment among districts, which infers some number of districts. And that's what I heard is the basis for any decision we should make.
You want me to address that first?
Yeah.
I would agree with all those statements. Everything you said there, and I know this can get very confusing if you try to overanalyze it. But I'm looking at the language that was adopted here. The council shall establish representative districts, which is plural, so one is probably not the intent, which shall be within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. 15 of these seats, not districts, but seats, shall be apportioned to afford a reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts, plural, and the remaining 2 shall be elected at large by those registered voters residing outside the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation, voting at large in accordance with this section.
So-
That's the language.
I also then heard that, although it's not explicit about the at-large representation, that it should also be district in some way.
I would disagree with that statement.
And I as well.
because
How is that then not incurring the breach of one man, one vote, or one person, one representative?
Because the apportionment only applies to the historical boundaries, and it does not apply outside the boundaries.
And there was extensive dialogue just on that base issue as we talked about the equal apportionment of seats within the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. There were some delegates that said, well, then we need to establish districts beyond. This gets back to a much greater legal argument than I'm prepared, except to say we have no jurisdiction beyond the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. So it would perhaps be, and I think that the delegates in the convention said it best, it would be inappropriate for us to establish a representative district in someone else's country.
So what I'm hearing though is, rather than, we wouldn't apportion those seats, but to keep with one person, one representative, we could pick a lat long, or I guess it'd be a longitude, or take the Mississippi, go east-west, pick some on the matching longitude on the other side of the world, half the world, and say, if you're in this hemisphere, you're here, and if you're over here, you're
If I can respond to that, and not to belabor my point, but again, the language, and I believe the debate was the apportionment scheme was only to apply to the historical Cherokee Nation and not beyond. Because of the logistical problems you get into. I mean, how do you split the earth, north, south, east, west? And so after some debate on that, they just said, well, we'll have 2 at-large representatives, and they will be elected at large, which has some historical ties to our nation. And that's the way this body was originally elected.
And just to make a further point on that regard, in the United States, you can live anywhere in the world, and you can still vote in our elections, but you are registered, or domiciled in a particular locale, so you will vote. If I live in France, I can get an absentee ballot, and I can vote for a representative in Oklahoma. This is not the system the Cherokees devise. They, the Constitution clearly state out that we're going to have 2 at large, which will represent the entire Cherokee Nation population outside of our boundaries. And so it's a different new creation, and it's something that we need to look at in a vacuum in our own country. We don't have we can't divide up district, as Mr. Keene said, outside of our 14 counties, but it was a specific intent or specific action of the delegates that we're going to divide up the 14 county area, and then we're going to have 2 at large, and that's the word they used to say, at large. And that's why you can make the point, Ms. Lutton, very, very appropriately. That's contrary to one man, one vote, but that's the Constitution. Okay. We have to deal with the value of what the Constitution says.
So that you're saying that the Constitution precludes us from dividing the area between the 2 at large, so one person, one representative, or
I think that was
that's not what I read into it.
Well, that was the intent. You asked these individuals here to get the intent of the framers, and that was the intent of the framers.
I think we're going to have a lot of unhappy in jurisdiction votes if they get 2 votes and the rest don't.
Well, I think part of the rationale behind that is because apportionment does apply within the 14 county area, and there's an actual number. There's a ratio that is calculated, and I think that ratio is somewhere around 6,000 or 7,000, whatever it is, 6,000 or 7,000 members per representative. If you look at the at-large populace, those numbers are going to be greatly higher, and I don't know what they are. I mean, I admit that, but it's going to be much higher than 7,000 before.
I just don't think it's mutually exclusive. I just do not think that, I understand that we won't be able to match the population. We're just given 2, they get 2, period, even if there's a gazillion of them, right? Understood. But part of my heartburn with the existing the status quo is that you've got people with multiple representation, therefore multiple monies, and, you know, it's not distributed equitably throughout the 14 counties where we provide our services. So we don't have that issue with that large because we can't provide services outside of our jurisdiction. So, you know, those kind of issues go away. But just because we don't require apportionment doesn't mean we shouldn't follow through with one person, one representative for at large as well.
Well, the concept, like I said earlier, the concept that you equate one man, one vote is good. But I'm just saying, you can't do that with the language of the Constitution and the intent of the Constitution as to at-large body, as to the at-large government. And that's just my opinion, okay? And I don't think to be the world's authority on this Cherokee Constitution. That's Mr. Ham.
I don't know that I appreciate being called out like that.
Ms. Countwath, is there?
Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, since we have the world-renowned authority on the Cherokee Constitution before this body,
Thank you, Councilman.
I would like to take this opportunity. You pointed out that you live in Oklahoma City.
Yes, sir, in Norman, Oklahoma.
Or no, in Norman. Someplace out
Someplace out in the west.
You're not on the edge of the earth, but you can see it from there.
It's close.
And you traditionally voted in Mosby's Prairie.
That's correct, sir.
And the Constitution pretty much says that if in the last election you voted in Mosby's Prairie or in that district, then you can vote in that district again. I think the districts are going to change. In other words, I don't think there's going to be an Adair County, or what do you call it, Cherokee district anymore. I think there's going to be Adair County East and Adair County West. Does that mean you've got to re-register and pick one side or the other?
All right, to answer your question, I'll have to identify certain logic points in this discussion. A, the timing element of whether, in fact, I have already made a decision to vote in the Trail of Tears district or not. I don't know that that's the case, because I believe that I have until the next election when my at-large councilmen are, in fact, officially elected.
Clarification.
Yes.
Are you talking about next July or
The next general election, which would actually, but Ralph, would it not be after the first election of the at-large delegates?
At the time of the first election
To fill at-large council seats. That was what.
next year.
So you've got 5 years.
Yes, sir. And at that point, I will have to make a decision of whether I'm going to register at large or if I'm going to register, maintain my registration in Adair County.
So how are you going to vote? I mean, how can you do it this time? Is my question. In other words, you traditionally voted in Adair County. Adair County is going to be divided in half. It's going to literally become two seats instead of one seat. Or,
It could.
yeah. Well, I'm guessing
Yeah.
just from the discussion. So do you have to make that declaration? And if not, what magical system's going to put you in A or B or East or West or? Todd, you raised your hand.
Yes. Well, better first. I'm, and I wish I wouldn't have called him an expert, because here I am in this meeting.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
All registered voters residing outside of the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation may, not required, but may, at the time of the first election, to fill at-large council seats. The first election to fill at-large council seats will be July of 2007. I think you will need to make that.
And I will stand corrected. That is correct as I read the entirety of this phrase, that by this next election, I will have to make a decision on where I'm going to vote.
So we need to do this pretty quick, because basically, you're going to have to re-register, or at least, maybe not re-register, but You're going to have to contact,
I have to declare my intentions to no longer retain my registration where it is currently.
And I would tell you that at the meeting of the last election commission, that's why, we said that they're looking for guidance here on how to carry out just that function. That's why it's so important that we call this special meeting here today, roll up our sleeves, loosen our ties, and make these decisions today, because time is of the essence, especially if we're going to carve districts or seats in districts, and because we need to get that information to those individuals. So they can contact the at-large people and say, look, it is time for your one-time only decision. Adair County, which you have historically voted in, has now 2 districts, an east or west or north or south or whatever it turns out to be. You have to determine which one you want to vote in or remain at large. Correct?
Yeah, and just to make a point that, so that we're confused at a much higher level than we are now, is that we began this discussion today about apportionment, and I've clarified the point that there in Article 3, or Article 6, Section 3, it describes apportionment based on citizenship. It's later in this article that deciding where at-large citizens are going to vote is determined that all registered voters outside. There it gives that may intention. So make sure that even though, yes, Bill John, the registered voter population of districts may in fact expand or contract, the apportionment theory in the Constitution is still based on equitable citizenship.
I'm done.
Mr. Martin and then Ms. Calm-Watts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to thank these fine gentlemen for taking this time to come here. We'll make sure that everybody understands these 3 gentlemen are from Adair County. They represent our county well.
Better for worse.
When you look at it that way, we have a man from Chewy, which is the north end, and Stillwell, it's about the middle of the county, and Breezy down the south end. So we're well represented, and I'm proud of these gentlemen for their effort in doing this. But this is not part of the Constitution, but during the discussion back, you guys were involved in this. Were there any discussions with representatives of your group about how this council would determine the citizenship where they're populated, if it was by post office box or by zip code or by census? Nothing of this sort was discussed.
No.
Not my recollection. Okay.
And I recall, in just having in the past 72 hours read back through those 2 particular days, there was no discussion that I recall that attempted to define citizenship attached to a mailing address, a P.O. box, domiciled in.
So that's totally up to this body then to make
Yes,
that
sir.
determination how we do that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Ms. Calm-Watts and then Mr. Garvin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The issue of at-large voter registration does not have to be part of the redistricting issues, correct? Just want to clarify that we do not have to be acting on redistricting just because the at-large voters need to be.
No, because once again, my earliest point, and the point that I will underline, is that the key word in the redistricting element, once again, focuses on citizenship, not on registered voters.
Thank you.
And it does create.
That's all I had.
I'll just briefly make this comment. It does create a potential problem because the framers did not envision that the districts would change at the next election, or the first election of the at-large candidate. So it would create a problem that this body will have to resolve one way or the other if you redistrict.
Ivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You can see what unfair representation does. These three gentlemen are all from one district, and you don't see anybody from the Three Rivers up here because we don't have equal representation.
Pretty right to the top.
But seriously, I've been talking about this for 6 or 7 years. You would have thought I was on this committee that made all these changes, but I think it's good, and I've been talking to this group for a long time, and it's gone in one ear and out the other, look like. But anyway, I'm glad that we're going to get one man, one vote. That's what we need, equal representation. I like that word. Thanks.
That's what democracy is.
Yeah.
Representative.
Well, we haven't seen that in the Cherokee Nation the last 6 years. I'd hate to say that, but it's been true.
Any other questions, comments while we have these gentlemen here? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, yes, we do have one.
Okay, we've discussed the one man, one vote. Is there anything in that Constitution that you read that says that we should have a district, a seat A and B, and it is represented by those ends for one official to vote? Is there any controversy within that you're reading into that?
Well,
Everything remains
everything remains
the same.
the same, but create some type of subdivision in the existing district.
Well, I know
Is
this
that
was
your
taken out to the communities. And in our particular community, you know, we discussed the seat A and the seat B. And our people that was represented there did not like being restricted to one council member. They didn't want the district divided, in other words. We are one community. And what I've heard in retrospect is that people think, why change it? We've been represented this way, why change it? We're united within our district. And to separate it out as seat A and B, maybe somebody wants to call the other representative from another area or whatever. I think they can understand the seat A and B. I don't think our populace will understand that they're restricted and it's a division, which is what it is. And I just don't, I think that we as a council will be, and rightfully so, be blamed for that and what those issues are. I don't think our public's going to try to understand that because we're not used to that scenario. And I don't think they like it. They like, we just got some feedback on it from our area.
Well, the Constitution requires you to establish reasonably equal division of citizenship among the districts. And how you go about that process will be at your design. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come home and to be here today. I will say that I am not an expert on this Constitution. It was my honor to officiate the work of our citizens who were delegates to that group. They spent a great deal of time looking at weighty issues. It was not done in an absolute vacuum. There were lots of exterior pressures and forces that I have no doubt sculpted a great deal of the debate and a great deal of the decision making that was made at that time. And obviously it's 2006. It's a few years past 1999 and things change and they are different. But at the root base, there are instructions that are made for not only the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial of our tribe, and it is definitely handed to the legislative body to decide how we are going to go to Chewy. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, John, just a minute, Jay. I think we may.
Before they leave, are there any arrest warrants out for these gentlemen?
I am unaware of any. I do know that the docket, at least for the Indian Marshal Service, will not close until noon. My plan is to make it back to the Arkansas River as quickly as possible. Thank you, Bill John.
Okay. What is the will of this tribal council in regard to districting? Did you have a comment? You looked at me.
I'm full of comments.
Narrow it down, would you?
I think it's a threshold question. that this council needs to decide, okay? Basically, whether you're going to keep your 9 districts and your seat A and B, basically keep it the same. And you've heard the intent of the intent of the framework of the Constitution. You've read the Constitution. We've studied this matter for quite some time. You've heard my opinions on it of whether it should be districts or individual seats within geographical districts. We need that threshold question answered. Okay. If the answer is we want individual geographical seats, then we need to determine how you go about doing that. But I think the first question is, do we go one man, one vote, or do we remain the same? You've heard my opinion that I can argue it either way, but in a perfect world, the most logical argument is geographical seats. But there is that is a decision this council needs to make, and you can make it either way.
Listen to these gentlemen who came here from Adair County, and it's always Adair County. I keep saying that. They still have to cross the Arkansas River before they get out of there. But from the way they explained it, and the way the Constitution explained it, that these seats are supposed to be a portion of citizenship and have a fair representation of each district. And my district right now is Sequoia County. We've got close to 13,000 citizens in that county. Now, if we do A and B, then I'm still going to be representing 13,000 citizens. Is that fair to the citizens of that county? Or did this Constitution mean that that county is to be split and I'm supposed to serve 6,500 or 7,000? And I think that's what the Constitution meant. That county or that district would be split, and I would serve 6,000 or 7,000 people instead of 13,000. And these 6,000 or 7,000 people would be able to vote for one man, one representative. Now, I may not be that representative, but I believe truly that's what these gentlemen have told us here today. And the at-large people are supposed to be representing the whole at-large body. It's not supposed to be proportioned into any citizenship. That's the way I see it, and that's the way I feel that I'm going to have to vote for this thing. And split it east and west, and have 2 seats. And one representative represents the west side, and one represents the east side. And as far as the west side picking up Bragg's, Oklahoma, in that area, that'd be fine with me. I don't have any problem with that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think to go along with the Constitution that we need to have 15 seats. So I make a motion the council divides the Cherokee Nation into 15. Can't be equal, but close.
Mr. Garvin, I'm sorry, I apologize. Ms. Shopcroft was next.
Okay. Just to erase everyone else.
Oh, my question was, we're going to do divide these up and represent the people in A or B. Do you have to live in the A to run, or do you have to live in that A?
Mr. Garvin and Mr. Baker.
Okay, I'll still go with my motion to divide the Cherokee Nation into 15 almost equal seats.
I have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? now Mr. Baker, and then Ms. Watts, and then Mr.
I don't disagree with David, and obviously that's pretty much the motion that Mr. Gorman has just made. Logistically, I think that's the best way to do it. But with the time frame that we have with the next election, with the at-large, or the folks outside the 14 counties, basically, if we do this and divide it up into the 15 one-man, one-vote seats, we're going to force every single person outside the 14 counties to, between now and the close of registration, contact the Cherokee Nation and choose one of these new 15 districts, or 15 seats, or whatever we're going to call it. You're going to force every one of them to make a decision, and I think you're going to disenfranchise a lot of folks. Now, if they don't contact, does that mean they get to vote just at large?
Yes. Yeah, the way the Constitution states is that everyone residing outside of the 14 county area, which is a registered voter, may. So if they make no decision, they are an at-large.
But I thought there was a caveat in there that if you voted in Cherokee County in the last election, you get to stay there. But Cherokee County's not going to exist anymore. I mean, it's going to be there, but we're going to have a north and south, or whatever.
They're going to need to contact the election commission anyway,
Okay?
one way or the other. They can contact and say, if they're going to have to contact and say, I want to be still in Cherokee County, no matter whether we do districts or not, okay? Because if they don't make that contact, they're automatically at large. Right?
That's correct.
Okay, so the contact is going to have to be made if you all decide to go into districts, is that they're going to have to contact and say, I want to be in Cherokee District A, B, or C, or 1, 2, 3, or whatever the way you want to name it. So any way you cut it, the at-large voter is going to have to contact the election commission to make that decision.
Todd asked me to indulge is that you're correct, Bill John, that if this is not done in sequence, it will be a confusing mess for those of us that are living outside of the district, especially if I were asked by the election commission to make a decision of electing a district that may or may not exist. Therefore, the apportionment decision must be made first. It must be made first. So that if you were to bifurcate an existing district, that I therefore have an opportunity to decide which one of those subdivisions that I'm going to place my registration.
That's it.
Ms. Calvin Watts, and then Ms. Rainbow, and Margaret Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Like Todd, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with our expert. Sorry, Mr. Hannah. Yes, because, I don't think that it automatically mandates those steps exactly, because they could declare to stay in the districts as at-large voters, and then later, just like everybody who lived in the district, should we redistrict and how we redistrict, they would just be in that bunch that would have to figure out where they live or what they're doing. So I don't think that it mandates that we have to redistrict. I think apportionment needs to be done, definitely, because I think populations change, and that forces us to do that. But I don't think we have to redistrict in order to allow the at-large voters to declare or not, because they would just be lumped in with everybody else. That exercise would still have, that work would still have to be done by the election commission no matter what. But the reason I really raised my hand to ask was I would like to hear from the election commission offices or commissioners to what would the work look. I mean, is it feasible, is it even possible to physically redistrict in any way which would create re-registration of large numbers of voters for precincts and those kind of things. We haven't heard from them.
Are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking.
I think their attorney is here. Would you like to be the spokesperson for the Election Commission?
I'll say something first.
Come up to the podium, please.
I also am from Adair County.
Would you state your name, please, for those that don't know?
I wanted to get on the right side of the river. My name is Patsy Lynn Eads. And for 10 years of my career, my students call me Miss Eads. So I should never have put work on it. To answer your question, we are having a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock to discuss the items that are discussed here today and voted upon, and we are at your will. Of course we are, to do what you want us to do. I might add that we have 5 commissioners and that I am the 3rd chairman since I came on. And I intend to have a very smooth commission and a very upright one, and you're welcome to come to any of our meetings. And the young lady that I'd like to say a word or two has been there 6 years, and her name is Wanda Beaver. And then we have an attorney, Mr. Cosby, that can make another statement. But Wanda is the one that is in the nitty-gritty every day, running of the office, and I would like for her to make, once she's here, to make a statement. Wanda, you ready to do that? Or would you like Mr. Cosby to speak first? What's it?
Mr. Cosby, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Jim Cosby. I'm the attorney for the Election Commission. And I was with Todd Embry on some of this stuff on this redistricting, and well, let me tell you, it's going to be confusing, and it's going to be a mess for a while, but I think that maybe this is a good positive step that the voters and the citizens will be better represented by the council if we do apportion this now, because I think it's going to come down to it later, sooner or later. So I think right now is the best time to do it. Go ahead and get it over with. Ms. Beaver can probably speak as to the registration of these voters. I don't see that being a big problem, but I think time is of the essence, and we probably need to get started on it. The sooner the better, and that way we can have these at-large voters registered prior to the upcoming election. So that's my take on it. But I do support the redistricting. I think that that's a good idea, and probably now is the time to implement it.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Cosby? Ms. Beaver, Wanda? Yes. Would you like to come forward? Thank you for coming.
To answer Carrie's question, I don't know, but we do need to have your part done first. It probably will take a while to get, to notify everybody, to get their response back. And plus, then there's the issue with people with bad addresses that will probably have to be put in the paper so they have a chance to respond to. Because if they don't get the notification, and then, you just put them at large, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people angry about that. They didn't get that chance to choose whether to stay in or be out. So the sooner we get it done, I think
On addresses, do we require a 911 address, or that's what
Yes.
we're going to require? Ms. Watts?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Do you happen to have the timeline for the upcoming election based on our current election code? Do you know what those dates are, so we'd have an idea of how far out we are?
yes, but not looking. But the packets, everything's probably starting in December. Except, of course, the election, actual election moved a month, so it's June 2007. And I believe the close of registration that was moved to the. I think Patsy, don't you have a calendar? It's on here. I'm sorry. Let me look. I think you have it in your folder.
Yeah, I have filing March
Filing
5th
fifth
through
through
the
the
8th.
eighth.
Filing is March 5th through the 8th.
The primary is the 23rd.
So I would assume that would have to be our earliest date we would look at, because candidates would need to know where they live to file. And really, it's 270 days prior to the filing date for somebody to have lived in the district in order to file, which is us this month, right?
No,
It's already passed, so they would have to live
They would have had to.
where they are
June 8th.
right now to file June 8th.
June 8th.
Okay. And so,
Here's the calendar, Jamie, and we'll make copies when she finishes.
okay.
Yes, an absentee ballot request and open is February 5th, 2007.
So, we,
Or absentee request.
Yes, and voter registration will close March 30th.
so we have a full 5 months till they start requesting absentee ballot, and that's it to implement. How long do you think it would take to do just the mail out to current voters to announce our efforts and get a reply back? What's that process?
Probably give us at least a month to mail out and get our response.
What are the other voter deadlines? And the actual election date?
The actual election date is June 23rd.
In general.
That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Wanda.
Mr. England?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to Todd. Looking at this redistricting map, I want to clarify that, and I just want to ask your legal opinion. If we redistrict like this, this means that you must live within the seat that you run for the 270 days prior to filing, which was June the 8th was the cutoff. Is that correct? I mean, you won't be able to move around now to jump over and...
The time has passed to establish a residency in order to run for office. You have to have been domiciled in, let's say hypothetically, if you do divide Adair County east-west along Highway 59, you will have to be a resident east of Highway 59 in order to run for that office, whatever office that is. And you can't be across the road and establish a residence today and qualify to run for office.
Okay, that was my question, because I know how it is going to court over that stuff, so just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Mr. Martin? Then Mr. Garvin.
Thank you.
This is one of the things that's been on my mind, like the rest of us, because of the new Constitution or law of the land that we're having to deal with, and I don't have any problem with that, but I think my biggest problem that I had was that, and I think probably most of us are guilty of this, that we don't like changes. You know, our people, when I say our people, our citizens, have been used to what the way we've done things in modern history of the Cherokee Nation, of the 9 districts and whatever. But from what I understand of the wording of the Constitution is that I agree. I may not necessarily approve of it, but I agree that we need to divide this up with 15 districts, as close to equal representation as we can get, as other government entities do. Now, I agree with that, that's the way it ought to be. The other problem that I see and have
and I agree with Mrs. O'Leary, that this is going to be a tremendous change for our Cherokee citizens when we do, if we do this way, because they're used to doing it this way, and so this will create a major change for them. But in saying that, then we haven't expected 15 of us have a tremendous responsibility then, I think, in the next few months to get out and have as many community meetings as we can to inform our people out there that if we make this change, that there is a change, and it's going to require, sounds like, folks will have to re-register, and in one sense that's good because that'll update the information that we need in election committee. And Mr. Baker mentioned a while ago about, and I agree with the 15 distinct districts. And of course, I would assume that we would name or give a name to each of the 15 districts, I would assume. Should be if we do that. And all that being said, I would go along with this motion that Mr. Garvin made to change that. But if we approve that, then there'll be some major discussions of how we're going to determine the 15 districts. And, thank you very much.
Mr. Martin, I think Todd had a clarification possibly for
Well, I probably need one.
No, the one thing that I would clarify is that I think the only thing that's mandatory that the election commission get, because this is such a short time frame, is a response from the outside voters. Okay, so they're going to have to say, I want to stay at large, or I want to be part of, a district or a seat. I don't think, and I've been losing sleep over this, but I don't think it shows you how much life I have. That it's going to require a total re-registration of every voter in the Cherokee Nation. Because what's important is that we have the integrity of the election staying intact. Okay. Let's say I'm a voter in Adair County. Since Adair County's got this mafia going around. But let's say I'm a voter of Adair County, and anyone from the election commission or anyone who stands up and says this is a bad idea, but because I'm thinking here, is that I walk in for to vote. Now, part of the education process is going to be through the Cherokee Nation government telling everybody that there's a change. Part of the education process is going to be the campaign itself. The candidates are going to say, I know I'm going to campaign east of Highway 51 or west of Highway 59, excuse me. So that's part of the education process in and of itself. But let's say I'm a voter in Adair County, and I come into Election Day in June, and I still don't know where I vote. But I know I vote in Adair County. When I walk in, you have a poll worker ask there, where do you live? And you have a big map of Adair County. Well, I live there. Okay. Well, because most people know where they live, and they will be able to pick it out on a map. You never see absolutes. Okay. And also, some people may, live in an RV. Okay. And so you gotta have. But I'm serious here. But you have to where you live. All right. So you pick. You show them on the map where you live. All right. Then you sign an affidavit that says something to the effect of, we, the undersigned registered voters of the Cherokee Nation, do hereby swear or affirm that I am a resident of Adair County east of Highway 59 or west of Highway 59. You sign that affidavit one way or the other, and you give it in the hand of your guy. And then you vote. All right? In that way, it would, in my opinion, preserve the integrity of the election, because if anyone has these rumors that, oh, well, everybody from Westville went down to Vail to vote, and they just got bailed out. No, you will have to put down your name, address, you sign it and put your address, and then you get a ballot. Physical address. So that way, that's something that someone can check, that, okay, 500 people voted in Vail, they all signed this affidavit that they live east of Highway 59, and they all put a Vail address. That's something that's verifiable from day one, and then any person can get a copy of it. So I don't think it's going to require a total re-registration, or everyone to re-register to vote. I think the only thing that this is going to require is that all the outlanders contact the election commission. Did any of that make sense?
Mr. Gardner, are you finished down there?
No, ma'am, if you allow me to make one comment.
Uh-oh.
Todd, those are good points, and I appreciate that, but I had to do that in the last, I believe the last school board election, because I had a mailing address, and they said, we want a physical address, so I filled out a form and showed them exactly where the house is.
That is something that is not unknown in the election circle.
Yeah, thank you. I'm through.
Good. Mr. Garvin, and then Mr. Crittenden, out military.
It's been said that this is going to be kind of hard to do, and we haven't had large voter here from Adair County, and he's got about 6 months. He's been talking about voting in Trail of Tears, and also he's considered Three Rivers. I've been visiting with him. Now, within the next 6 months, Mr. Hammett, do you think you could probably decide whether to stay at large or choose Three Rivers or Trail of Tears? Is that going to be a hard thing for you to do in the next 6 months?
Well, it will be difficult. I will say that it will be difficult, but it will not take long for me to make
You
that.
think you can do it?
I believe that I am entirely capable of doing so, because my great-grandfather settled on the west side of the Arkansas River, in what is, I believe, over in your district. We still hold that allotment in our family, and that's good genes.
I invite you to come over.
We move quickly.
Mr. Crittenden, then Ms. Shopman.
I just have to comment. I know that progress changed, as Jacob Bob mentioned. A lot of times we try to resist it. But that's part of this, what this Constitution sets out, this redistricting. And in the whole scheme of things, the most concern I have is, as he mentioned also, is our people out there. We have so much apathy and such a low turnout in the last general election. I'm very disappointed in that, and I just think that at least for a period of time, we're liable to have even more people saying, I'm going to go with it. That bothers me, and hopefully, maybe after this first go around and everything gets set, maybe we can start getting them back, or getting them more involved. That's my concern.
Well, I agree with Jeff about what he was saying, and I know not everybody was on the Constitution Committee. I mean, people out there that lives out there, I don't think it's going to be so much that outside people's going to have confusion. It's people that live within these boundaries that's going to have confusion. And but what my question was, are we voting on this today the way it is? Is that what we're doing now? Just the way it is?
His motion was to create 15 seats.
But not the boundaries, how it's going to be divided up yet.
No, I think the election commission is interested in
The threshold question is, are we going to have 15 individual seats? And how do you divide that up amongst districts?
Okay, all right. That's what I didn't know if it's voting on already, but just the 15 seats. Okay, all right.
Well,
one of the questions I have, I guess, Todd, or when you, when they register to vote, you got like A, B, C, or D, where they vote at, whether it be one town, another town, or whatever. Now, when this is redistricted, then we're going to also have to inform those those people, you know, what's your selection of where you vote, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's polling places, and we can have the election commissioner up here. They go about the process in each election of trying to find the best polling place for a particular district. You know, of course.
So actually, those places that's familiar to our people out there could be changed to another place to vote.
Sure.
Is what I'm asking.
Sure. I mean, it's going to be an education process. You might have, it can be confusing. Anytime you change a polling place, it can be confusing. Or, and this is something the election commission will consider, is, you know, this doesn't make sense to keep the polling places the same as it did last year. I believe, and I'm not quite sure, that in the election 4 years ago, there were some polling places that were different than the previous 4 years ago. Okay, so each year there is an evaluation of whether these are still good polling places. And if there's going to be a polling place change, obviously it's incumbent upon the government to let everybody know that, and also it's incumbent, upon the candidates to let their people know where to walk in to vote. So, yeah, it is going to be confusing anytime you change a polling place. But it is a process, I believe, that the election commission on each election have reevaluated the polling places.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Georgie?
I just had a question. Do we notify people currently, this election commission, do we notify people currently if their polling places change or where they will be voting? Do we currently do that?
That's the grand point, all that information is on there. We wait until
But there's no notification overall. Say if someone is newly registered to vote, they don't pay attention to their card or something. Is there any kind of general notice that goes out to the public that says your new polling place or your current polling place is who you're?
No, I believe they're supposed to put, the last commission did not put that in the newspaper. I can't recall if it was in the paper or not. I know they didn't put it out there. If it was in the paper,
Wanda, I'm sorry, she can't hear and we need to get you on the recorder. Would you mind going forward?
I said, I think there is a place in the rules and regulations where they are supposed to notify people, put it in the paper, but the last commission did not do that. So, and I don't recall if it was in the paper or not. If it was, the commission did not put it out. And that was the only way really they were notified was through the waiting line card.
Something she has a comment.
I do. I go to the Mankato Clinic, and the papers, the newspapers, are passed from person to person to person. And I don't know if it would be a conflict of interest to make sure that this information was made available there at the clinic, just on a table or at some place like where the newspapers are. I would pick it up. I read everything that's there while I'm waiting to get my appointment. And it has a high volume of people. It could go to every clinic. This is just a thought I had the last time I went to the doctor. It has a high rate of people that go there who don't get out to other places. So that would be maybe a recommendation. That's just something we can talk about, that we can put information there. Besides the papers, and if you have any recommendations, I'm still saying send someone over and talk with us, because Stanley is putting there and so has okay. I'm sorry. So that was the comment I wanted to make.
Todd, I think you have a comment.
Yes, it would be highly incumbent upon the election commission and the Cherokee Nation government to put out information of possible new polling places wherever Cherokee is concentrated, be that Mankato Clinic, any other health clinics, ag office, this office, any other facility. So, more than likely, yeah, there will be new polling places, and we need to, and there will need to get that information out. There would not be a conflict.
Ms. Sharkey, would you have further comment?
Well, that's, thank you, Madam Jack. That was what I was going to recommend, and the question being, is that going to be considered a conflict of interest too? something to our citizens that say that your polling place has changed, you know, and do it in a timely enough manner that they know ahead of time. And the other thing that we talked about, and I don't know how difficult this might be, but since this would be a change possibly for persons residing on one side of the county or another, or one side of a highway or another, that each of the polling places or the precincts would be given ballots for people that are expected to vote in that place, as well as just in case ballots or something. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say, people come there by mistake, that they could still be counted, their vote could still be counted in the proper area.
Sure.
That makes sense?
And there are going to be polling places that may have a mix of individuals. Let's take the town of Jay. Let's take the town of Townsville, for example. You know, you might have a situation, and you guys will decide that Townsville may be split down the middle. Maybe Townsville may be split 3 ways. Townsville may be a district in and of itself. Or the same way with Jay. Your ballots, your polling places, are going to need ballots for both of those seats. And that's why you have an affidavit system. You have both affidavits there. If I come in and say, I live on the west side of Highway 59 in Greasy, Oklahoma, but I go over to Vail to vote, well, I sign the appropriate affidavit and I get the appropriate ballot, and I'll go ahead and vote at Vail. But I just go ahead, but I just make the polling workers just make darn sure that I sign the right affidavit and I get the right ballot, and go ahead and vote it. Well, they don't send me back over to Cave Springs to vote. I can go ahead and vote it right there.
That's what I'm afraid of, is that people could make the effort to go and vote, but then they could be turned away for not being at the right place, and they're not going to go again.
Yeah, we need to avoid that at all costs. There need to be ballots for both seats in every polling place, especially this first election. And like I said, you have both affidavits there. You sign the right one, you tell them where you live, you get a ballot.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to clarify, I had to re-register because of my move for getting married, so I moved in the county. And they automatically, in acknowledgement of my registration, sent me a postcard that said what precinct I would be voting at and acknowledging my registration. And then in addition, I think then as it gets closer to the election, they also send the red and white card, or the white card with the red trim, that re-verifies after they determine the precincts. So a voter gets that information twice, assuming they've given us a valid address. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Oh, I was just going to comment. He said, he was going to vote at Cave Springs. When he first went to district, 1991, I took a lady to the polls to vote, and she was registered as Salina, Oklahoma. And I said, well, you're not registered, but she lived in Delaware County. And I said, no, she said, well, I'm voting, I'm Cherokee, and so I take her to Salina, and she voted to Salina, but for me, for whatever. So I don't think somebody messed up.
Any further discussion, questions? Yes, Ms. Sharkey.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're consistent whenever we do with the election commission, because I remember when I first registered to vote, we didn't have red and white vote card, and I didn't get one. And I've never changed my, precinct, but I know some people that have never have gotten notice. So we need to be, make sure that we're real consistent, especially this first go around, real consistent, careful, conscientious about sending these notices out. And I know that a lot of it's hinging on our decision and time, but that shouldn't stop your process, your thought process on what's going to need to take place once the decision is made. So I just want to voice that concern that for all of us, we need to be consistent about the information that we're getting out to our citizenship.
Any other questions, comments?
Call for the question.
Okay, the motion is to create 15 seats within the 14 county jurisdiction, correct? Correct. favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we have 15 seats. Now, not districts, but seats. Geographic seats. Okay, now, then we need to discuss, Mr. Baker.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that those outside the 14 county area, do as the Constitution says, or as was explained to us, that both at-large represent the entire.
Second.
The entire population outside the 14 county area.
Moved and second, any discussion? Everyone clear? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Right. Now we need to discuss.
Now that we've made that threshold decision, it is the real hard work begins. Of how to divide the seats accordingly. Now, I took a shot at it, okay, and it's now coming up on you all to make the decision. What the reason behind this map here is that number one, voters like familiarity. They like I try to keep it as familiar as possible. That's why the system I came up with maintained the 9 districts, but divided those seats.
You need to be more specific about what map you're looking at.
They're not numbered, so.
What's it called at the top?
It's called Cherokee Nation Proposed District. It is a different colors of pen, and it has highways.
What date was it generated? On the left, bottom left.
6/27/06.
I don't have that map.
This one is 629.
Oh. That's the same one.
Looks like we generated 62906.
629
That's it.
more accurate.
This is it? Yeah, that's it.
No.
It's like
Everyone have one of these?
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
Does it have optimal number 6762.37?
Right here, I can-
Above the or the numbers that are generated, does it have optimal number 6762.37? Okay, thank you.
We will have to, that's why I need to be, I'll cover that.
I've got the map, I've got the map.
Madam Chair, it's 11:45.
Yes.
This is going to take a lot of good discussion, and I make a motion, we recess for lunch, come back at 1 o'clock, and then we got the whole afternoon in it.
Second
motion.
Moved and second, any
With the
discussion?
friendly amendment that we go ahead and determine the other folks that we started with on the commission, or the compensation committee, so that they can be excused if they need to go ahead and leave. We accept that friendly amendment?
Yeah.
And Mr. Embry, all in favor of,
Aye.
all opposed, same sign. Okay, Ms. Timber.
Let me read off it real quickly. It'll take 3 minutes, the results of the compensation committee. The 2 people chosen was Ms. Barbara Johnson, who received a total of 15 votes, and Mr. Ketcher, who received a total of 8 votes. Mr. Stotts received a total of 7 votes. For the record, I just need to read off these the votes. Audra Smoke Connors, John Ketcher, Jennifer Barger Johnson. Eldina Shophouse, Jennifer Barger Johnson, Bob Stott. Bill Johnson, John Ketcher, Jennifer Johnson. Bill England, John Ketcher, Jennifer Johnson. Tara Calvin Watts, Jennifer Barger Johnson, John Ketcher. Jackie Baker, John Ketcher, Jennifer Barger Johnson. Joe Crittenden, Bob Stott, Jennifer Johnson. Linda O'Leary, Bob Stott, Jennifer Barger Johnson. David Thornton, Stott, Johnson. Chuck Hoskins, Stock, Johnson. Don Garvin, Johnson, Ketcher. Becky Bob Martin, Jennifer Johnson, John Ketcher. Phyllis Yargy, Jennifer Barker Johnson. Taylor King, Jennifer Barker Johnson, Bob Stock. Mary Fraley, Jennifer Barker Johnson, John Ketcher, Bill John Baker, Bob Stock. Those were the votes. I will give the votes to the clerk, and Mr. Evans has the printout. If anybody wants to.
Madam Chair,
Madam Secretary, do you notify those two people and ask them to appear August 31st?
so with the official, I make a motion to approve these two. Mr. Ketchum.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion?
With a friendly amendment that it be explicitly written out, right?
Yes.
Or just a clarification, not a friendly amendment. It will be explicitly written out how the votes went.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Always is, I think. Do I have a second? To Mr. Garvin's motion?
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And then we need to vote on recess until 1 o'clock. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, Dr.